Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another episode of the Divine Feminine Empowerment Vlog. This is episode number 4. My name is Michelle Fondin. I'm an author and speaker, and I'm here with my Padawan Grogu, as well as my little Grogu tumbler. And I'm going to take a sip of my ginger turmeric tea. Very hot. And we're just gonna get started. So I wanted to come to you with a vlog this week because last week the vlog got a little messed up. I redid it, fixed the sound. If you've not yet listened to vlog number 3, go ahead and I'll post that right here with the fixed audio. And thank you to those that alerted me that the audio wasn't working. I still have no idea what happened to the audio because when I was editing the audio in vlog number 3, it was working just fine and dandy. So something happened between the rendering and posting the video. I'm not really sure what occurred, but the audio is fixed in the second video that I posted for vlog number 3. So go ahead and check it out. If you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me. Thanks for subscribing. Do give the video a thumbs up. So today I'm not going to talk about any specific topic. I just wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about the book that I'm writing called The Empowered Divine Feminine, Becoming an Unstoppable Woman in the 21st Century and Beyond, which will be released on March 22nd, 2023. I'm really excited, still writing the book. That's how I work, you guys. I usually write the book until about a month before the release, and then I go into editing mode, recording mode for the audiobook. The book gets posted on the date of release, and those things happen at the very last minute, guys. So as I'm writing this book, The Empowered Divine Feminine, I'm doing a lot of research on feminism. So of course, feminism that started in the mid-19th century, and then women's liberation that was in the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s, and then other waves after that of feminism that have been in recorded history. And I believe we are entering into another wave of feminism that is called the divine feminine power and feminine empowerment in that sense, which I'm writing about. But what I really wanted from you guys, if you could please help me out with this book, could you put in the comments section below today or whenever you find this video, hopefully before I finish writing the book, but if you could put what makes you feel disempowered as a woman, what has made you felt disempowered as a woman, not only as an adult, but as a teenager, as a young girl? What has made you feel disempowered in your past? And I would really appreciate that because it will give me ideas of areas of focus to help you become more empowered in your future. I've been digging up a lot of topics on this. I've been drawing on the experiences of the people that I have coached throughout the years. I've also drawn from my own personal experience as well. And I'm almost embarrassed to say this, really. I'm almost embarrassed to say this because I am a product of the time that I grew up in. And even though I grew up with a mother that was a product of the women's liberation movement of the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s. And I was raised by a single mom who had to put herself through school and got a very low-paying job in the beginning. And I saw my mom become more independent after getting a divorce from my dad. But even with that, the traditionalist views of women were still really preponderant in the time that I grew up. And so I'm almost, like I said, I'm almost embarrassed to say that when I got married at a very, very young age, I really lived a very traditional marriage. So even though I had wanted to work and did work at some points during my marriage, like it was a really traditional marriage, and I couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy in that marriage because I thought that I was doing my duty as a woman and doing the right thing, and I wasn't happy. So I do outline a lot of that experience in my book, The Empowered Divine Feminine. And it's like those types of experiences that I'm actually looking for to include in the book. You don't have to state your name. It could be an anonymous source. If you want your name, first name only included, then please, by all means, I would be happy to do that if your story is really compelling to include on how you have felt disempowered as a woman growing up, or in a marriage or relationship, or in the workplace, or raising children, however that really manifested for you. But for me, when I look back, I realize that even though I was not raised in the generation as an adult that I had to really fight for my rights as a woman, I do realize the transformations that took place in this in-between, what I call it. I feel like my generation, which was Generation X, was really the in-between for women. We had access to more things than our mothers and grandmothers, but we were promised a lot more. And what ended up happening into our young adulthood was kind of these mixed signals. And I really do address those mixed signals as far as, am I a traditional wife, for example, or am I a modern working woman? Which one is it? And how can I be something of both? And this ideal world, this utopia for women, especially those that started working in the late 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s, this promise of being able to have it all and have all this power, all this empowerment in the workplace, at home, in your marriage, in your partnerships, as a parent. All of these promises really didn't come to fruition. It came with a lot of pain, strife, heartache, toil, hard work, and a lot of guilt. So that's another thing that I intend to address in the book as well, is this concept of women carrying an enormous amount of guilt, as well as they attempt to do it all, as they attempt to have a role in everything. But I want to hear your stories. What are your stories when it comes to feeling disempowered, trying to climb up the corporate ladder, for example, trying to get that better job, trying to get into a certain university, or being married and the division of labor in the household and things like that, because those stories are so important to helping you become more empowered in the future. And of course, the shift in aspect with the divine feminine, the empowered divine feminine, is this shift in aspect to the spirituality of it and your personal power from a spiritual perspective, in letting go of the ego needs, if you will, right? The ego, for example, needs to be right. The ego needs to live in fear and the what if syndrome. The ego needs to be super competitive and prove itself better than the next person. So as you rise up into the divine feminine power, which is the spiritual power, we let go of some of those ego needs in order to fulfill better our roles in society and our roles in family as well. And that is the shift that we are making. That's the shift that's moving away from the things that happened, especially in the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s, because even though there was a little bit, some articles would argue that there was a little bit of a woman's third wave, fourth wave of movement in 2010, 2011, and then again in 2018 with the Me Too movement. I really feel sincerely as a divine spiritual being that those movements were more ego-based. Those movements were more rooted in pointing fingers and who's right and who's wrong, rather than rising up into your divinity and standing for what you stand for without necessarily finding fault in everyone and pointing fingers and villainizing men in general, which I don't believe is the right way to go. It's more about the empowerment to recognize yourself and to speak when appropriate about certain issues, and not villainizing any entire party as a whole, right? So every time we disregard an entire population as a whole, then there's something inherently wrong in that. So it's not about pointing the finger and saying, men have suppressed us, men are all bad, this is the men's fault. It's about saying, okay, here is where my power lies. What part did I take in this as well, so that we can change it together for the future? Because in order to change toward our sense of divine empowerment, we need to come together as a collective, and that includes the masculine, because it's about changing dynamics. It's about changing things as a whole. And you can't change things as a whole without the whole, right? Without the W-H-O-L-E whole, right? Not H-O-L-E. Without the W-H-O-L-E, without the whole, without the entirety, it's really difficult to change the trajectory, the dynamic. And so we need men in order to help change the dynamic. We don't disregard men, we need them. It's just this interesting dive that I've gone deeply into, because I really never intended to write a book specifically about women. It was never, ever, 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 ever in a million years on my mind. And when I found the necessity in the Divine Feminine Collective to have to do this because of where I see things going in the Divine Feminine Collective, and it's not necessarily moving in the exact right direction, I felt, gosh, we need to feel empowered in this, in all of this, not just on your twin flame journey or your spiritual awakening journey, but in everything, in your relationships with men, in your relationships with other people, in your friendships, your female friendships, and I do address that as well in the book, in your female friendships, in your family relationships, the family dynamics, in your relationships with your children, the empowerment that you will seek, that you will feel, that you will attain, will be able to permeate in all aspects of your life. So I thank you in advance for sharing with me your stories, for sharing with me where you have felt disempowered in your past, and perhaps even where you still feel disempowered, the areas in which you are still struggling to regain that sense of personal power. And if you want to email me at michellefondinauthor@gmail.com instead of posting in the comment section, that's okay too. Just put "story for the empowered divine feminine" in the subject line so that I know. So I want to thank you so much for your continued support with my channel, my books, all the work that I do. You guys know exactly how to support this channel. And you can always join a bootcamp or meditation course or book a reading with me or buy merch. And I'm wishing you the best week ever. And I hope to see you soon in a live stream. And I'll see you guys in the next video.